Hello. It's very interesting as a presenter to try to decide how you want to get things started, and doing everything from nursery rhymes to thinking about what Christine had already presented, and I kind of came up with the fail-safe answer, and that is, and you'll be amazed at, I think we picked up on this when we had a little set down here a couple of weeks ago. What she presented parallels what I'm going to present. So if we just take what she just roll back a couple hours, think about what Christine presented, put student veteran in front of it, you have my presentation. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I think Rob, Golden West, and all those who were instrumental in the strategic forum. And also, too, I want to echo out my heartfelt thank you to Orange Coast College, because this program would not be getting the visibility that it's getting now without the support of that institution. And also, too, for those of you who remember Maureen Robles, she was the one who came across me when I was working for MHA as the lone wolf throughout Orange County, combing through looking for homeless veterans. And it was her that brought me on board to give me this opportunity. So the program you see today is not what it looked like a year and a half ago when I started in September of 2012. It morphed into this, but it's all because of myself and my former colleague who's not here, but you'll be introducing to my new colleague later in the presentation. Listening to your voices to come to an understanding of what is needed, because we're 12 years into this conflict, and it's mind-boggling for me after retiring from the military to come out and not understand why we're not clicking when it comes to the care. So needless to say, I have a disclaimer. I want to go ahead and put that out there now. I'm one of those individuals that I wanted to give you the best possible picture of this program. So the thumb drive that you have that has that PowerPoint will need to be updated, because the PowerPoint you're going to see today has been updated, and I kind of put a smidgen of everything so that you can kind of get an idea of the impact of what is being put together and the possibilities of what you can instill on your campuses as well. In front of you on your desk, you should have some tools, those assessment tools that we are currently using in the program, and one of them happens to be the PHQ-9, and I'll be talking about that as well. So again, everything goes hand in hand, that the very things that Christine highlighted in her presentation is really going to be magnified here. So again, I'm very privileged to be able to follow accordingly. This is my goal for today. And it is to hit on these objectives so that by the end of this presentation, you have not only be able to understand those roadblocks that you've already highlighted, and you've hit on so many of them, but also too talking about the mission, purpose, and the procedures of the Veterans Campus Program, as we call it. Getting an understanding of student veterans, what they're talking about, and what I have a little segment just to give you some themes of what is being talked about one-on-one with me, so that you have an understanding of just how in-depth and how deep some of these issues that the student veterans are walking with on your various campuses. And then finally, some recommendations, final thoughts as to where we go with this program, and then I will give you an opportunity to fire away at questions. I love questions, lots of questions. First of all, I thought before I talk about the program, kind of set it up, and I think you all can relate to the numbers you're about to see. Some of you I've already talked to prior to the start of today already started talking about the increase in the number of student veterans that are on your campuses. So here we go. Surprise, surprise, California has the largest number of current conflict veterans of all the states. Shouldn't be a surprise. The study came from the VA back in 2012. 2.2 million veterans reside in California, and of course they're housed down here in Southern California. LA County being number one as far as the largest population, followed by San Diego, and oh yes, Orange County is right there in third in the entire state. And you can see that estimated 150,000 veterans, 10,000 of which are female veterans, and I'll highlight a little bit more about the specifics and the great concerns we have about our female veterans. And also, too, these numbers that you're seeing now are going to astronomically increase later in this year because of the downsizing and, of course, those who traditionally are getting out of this segment. So what are these roadblocks? I use words a little bit different because, again, because of the stigma and the sensitivity that we as veterans walk with, is we're looking for words that are more engaging rather than deficit-based, so that they come, because if you talk mental health, they're just going to turn around and run. But if they come in and you talk about things more from a behavioral standpoint to understand, little do we kind of understand that they will engage in a way that we're still talking mental health. It's just a different way of looking at it. And I think that's the key, is not only inviting them in a way that invites that agency that we're looking for, but also, too, as we'll find out later on, can you be that kind of person that can listen to some of the things that I'm going to highlight and say, if not, how do we address that? Stereotypes. You've already hit on some of them. Veterans are in a crisis. You hear this all the time. We've even in a way of saying that we care, we have kind of taken words to the point now where they have bled, if I can use that word, bled into now becoming, this is the way you look at them. It's a label. And so one veteran looks like another veteran. Everybody's in a crisis. And then you look at that they contain VA services. That's not necessarily true, because depending on how they're coming out of the military, based on benefits, not all of them qualify for VA services. So again, let's say along the same lines, in a crisis mode, not everybody can go. The answer is go to the VA. I think some of them would like to, but not all of them qualify. Another one that's big too is that everyone served in a combat environment. And even if they were over in a combat zone, it doesn't necessarily mean that they were front line. Not everyone got shot at, but the misnomer is that we kind of generalize in terms, and that's very hard for some of the veterans that don't relate to the kind of things you may be trying to emphasize to them. And the one that I really want to highlight, and I put it in red, is that all veterans are wounded. Every person that walks around who served in some capacity has wounded. I will tell you, having done 2 tours over in Iraq, war does change you, because you see things, experience things that may not always be the be-all, but how's that any different than being back here working as in the emergency room or intensive care or being a paramedic or first responders? I mean, it's along that same line, but do understand that not all veterans are wounded, and we also need to define, and which I love to do, is what do you mean by wounded? Many vets, this is the reasons why, and again, nothing that shouldn't surprise you as to why they're not seeking behavioral health. It's the stigma. The Warrior Code speaks that you suck it up and you drive on. Anything less than that speaks to something totally different. And as a behavioral health person, the second time over there, it's absolutely amazing in that environment that if you demonstrated any signs of being other than a warrior, you literally had your back turned on you. And once that happened, you're no longer operationally able to carry out your mission because you don't have the support of your team. So needless to say, now we come out here to this environment, and now everyone's screaming to me, I should be seeking help. I've got a statement, I got a question that a veteran threw at me that I'm going to throw at you and see what your thoughts are on that. Lack of resources, and this gentleman right here, you hit on that. It screams. It's not a veteran I haven't come across that is in need of financial crisis, family, trying to keep food on the table. They're short 3 days from being evicted, living out of their car. There's some great challenges that are out there that we need to be aware of, and so on. And of course, the last one goes without saying, they don't trust. I go to the VA, and all that comes out of it, I get hit with a label. So it's another way of encouraging and looking at it in a way of saying that state-of-the-art research that we're trying to do better at giving care, but we also have to destabilize that stigma that says it's not safe to go to the VA. for those who qualify. And now the concerns related to women veterans. This is a very, very concerned population for us in healthcare. You see the numbers as of 2010. The Research Network had said that as of 2000, this group here within the veteran population is the largest growing. Since 2000, they've gone from 166,000 to over 350,000. The problem is, if you recall the slide earlier, of the 10,000 estimated female veterans we have here in Orange County, maybe less than 3,000 are actively enrolled in VA care. So they're off the radar. And that drives research. We talk about such things as women's, number one issue is being heart disease. How do we improve on that if we don't have the participants out there to drive that train for research and to improve on that? Very little recognition. They're still looked at as being second-class citizens to the male veterans. I had one female veteran call to make an appointment at the VA, and the first question that was asked of her was, "So what is your spouse's Social Security number?" Well, I'm the veteran. I'm calling on behalf of myself. So the stigma is still out there. High divorce rate. Coming back, trying to identify not only as a mother, as a wife, and just as a woman in general. A lot of the things that are innate in a woman, that gift of that lovingness, the bonding of the children, when they have to go into an environment like Iraq, Afghanistan, that has to be shut down. They have to take on the characteristics of more of that warrior male mentality, because anything less than that, then they're looked at as being weak, dangerous, and over there it's life and death. So then, once you learn skills to do that, now to come back, how do you now reconnect with that which has been innate for quite some time? Very challenging. Likely incidents of military sexual trauma, unfortunately, and that's a large number. Less likely to find treatment groups, and less likely to find social cohorts that can relate to their experiences. But the number one and the most important problem we have that's most concerning is they're 3 times likely to commit suicide. This group, along with the, now that the Vietnam veterans are coming on board, are our 2 largest populations right now within the veterans that we're very concerned about, because, and I'm sure for those who've been staying connected to veteran issues, you hear that we're losing more back here in the United States or wherever they're at than we lost in combat. And you think about the things that we're going to highlight more to see that they're basically just tick-tock, tick-tock. And seeing that we're still falling short in so many areas and trying to relate and connect them, a lot of them are getting lost in the shovel, and the easiest answer is, I can't deal with this anymore. It's time to just check out, make the pain go away. So now, the Veterans Campus Program, some places call it the drop zone. It's one of these things that the school can call it whatever they want to call it, whatever it relates to. We use a drop zone because the concept was for the veteran to be, hey, drop in. It's an additional place that invites safety and a place where you can be understood and feel that you can become transparent in understanding the very challenges that they walk with every single day. This is what we do. We're a multidisciplinary team, behavioral health specialist, a veteran peer who has served, and again, who better than to have someone who, and Violet Romero Corona, will talk to you a little bit about her role and explain the importance and the significance of having that veteran peer mentor there to help the veterans navigate. I know there was a comment about why can't we just tell me what I need to do, and that needs to say that for those who've joined the military as an enlisted person, that means not having a college degree. You don't learn how to critical think. You just learn how to, where to be, you know what uniform to wear, and you know that this is the objective and this is how I'm supposed to carry it out. Now we come out to this environment and it becomes I'm asking you to do a 3-page report on so-and-so, and they'll go back and do a 3-page report on so-and-so, but then they come back and it's like, well, this is not what I was asking. Well, this is what you told me to do. It's getting them to understand that there's more agency than what they had when they were in the military, per se, if they weren't in a leadership role. We engage, we assess, and we assist. We do not treat. This is not a treating program. It's a program that's there as a conduit to the behavioral health department in saying that, hey, and I think you said it best, and I love it, one-stop shop. It looks like and I was brainstorming with one of my fellow veterans, and I go, what was unique about a military base is that it's a city all to its own. We have everything we need. We have a community where we live. We've got places where we shop. We work on there as well. It's kind of like its own compartmentalized place to be. The school now, as the community colleges are starting to address the presence of student veterans and their concerns, what another opportunity, and I have this talk with veterans all the time, whatever your motivation is as to why you're on campus, I always talk about and emphasize an opportunity and a privilege for access to higher learning, that you only know what you know, but when you come on campus, you can't not deny the fact that every time you walk out of that classroom, more doors are opening because you're gaining more knowledge. Knowledge is powerful because when you utilize it the way it opens doors, wow, what an amazing world, going from, well, I got my blinder and have my oats, to opening it up and seeing, wow, there's more out there that is accessible to me, the possibilities. But now we add the other sweet piece, and that is having a program like the Veterans Campus Program, where now you can come and start working on those other things, the things that will give you that foundation before you leave a community college that should be able, that foundation, to catapult you to bigger and better things, rather than the woulda, coulda, shouldas, which we don't like using those kinds of words. Again, the drop zone. It's not an entity all to its own. It's part of, and I like to use the extension of other elements so that you have an advisor. We just had I got to attend my first BAT team, Behavioral Assessment Team. We also now, because of the memorandum of understanding between the county and a place like Orange Coast, and we also have one at Santa Ana College, is we have an advisory board as well, so that we are coming together to talk about veteran issues. So it's a two-pronged thing rather than an entity all to itself. We focus on identifying what it is that it's getting in the way, that's being disruptive in job one, which is obtaining their educational goals. We link in referral, and I will present a slide here later that talks about some of the organizations that we have been collaborating with to help give them room to breathe so that they can navigate, and then we work on those skills and tools so that they're more they're able to start to manage the various things, rather than I'm in a crisis, maybe I needed to decrease my credit hours, maybe I need to drop out of school because I just can't manage one or the other. Because if I'm about ready to get evicted, it's hard to be focusing on what the professor's asking me to do at any given time. We also coordinate with various shops, and again, we'll highlight that in a slide, such as the VA, to come out and do presentations of whatever the need is, whether it's to the faculty, whether it is to the behavioral health team, administration, so that it's not just a compartmentalization of the vets have their little building over here, but to help also too, you as clinicians, you as administrators, you as professors, to be able to understand too a little bit more of what you're seeing at any given time, so that we can take the appropriate steps to get them the help that they need. And I'm happy to say, and I put support groups up there, that starting the Tuesday after we come back from spring break, I'll be starting my first male veterans group, and so that's going to be wonderful. The reason why we're still waiting to do the female veterans is, again, going back to the uniqueness and the difficulty of finding our female veterans. So we do have a date next month for a focus group where we're going to invite our female veterans from Orange Coast College. We're going to treat them to a nice, beautiful lunch, and we want to hear from them what those things are that they need on campus, rather than the concept of we build it, you're going to come. We really want to take, and because of the concerns that I highlighted, we want to make sure that we are giving them every opportunity to be a part of that building process as well. We look at empowering every single day. We use strength-based. I look at other possibilities rather than staying in the deficit, staying into the problem, but looking at what can we do today to get you through the day. How's your energy level? Did you not get enough sleep? If you didn't get enough rest, then obviously we're going to have to allocate that energy to the appropriate area so that you get through the day rather than using it up by lunchtime and you still have an afternoon or an evening class, and how you're going to get it done. So whether it's on campus, in the chaos, and trying to make the chaos not so chaotic, being able to participate in things in the community. We have some organizations that are community-based, but also, too, and you all know this, ask a veteran, what's your goal? I don't know. I have no idea what tomorrow looks like, let alone what it looked like getting out of bed this morning. So we talk about their ed plan. We look at what is. I like to use the phrase preferred way of living. What is your preferred way of living? What's the preferred life? And what does it look like? Even if they're not sure, I go, take a guess. If you had a magic wand right now, some pixie dust, and you were to tell me what it might look like, that's still their agency, and we can definitely take from that and we can expound upon it. Wellness and achievement. I would tell you there's nothing more rewarding for a veteran when I see them in their sessions when they talk about how surprised they were that they scored what they did on a particular test. That's an important thing to highlight to them, that they did that. And even if it's like, well, I didn't really study well, but look at the possibilities if we were to put a plan together to give you that opportunity now to expand on that, because what may have worked this time, we don't want to duplicate that process again. So we want to stay in achieving them in a higher level of functioning as well. And people who know people, just like with Violet Romero here, it's getting them connected to the kind of people that will be able to understand and embrace the things that they're going to hear, but help them get to a better place. And just a little bit about the concept and the funding that comes from the county. This is the Mental Health Service Act, Prop 63. So how do we connect the veteran to the program? There are a lot of ways to do this. I'm going to highlight two of them. I think Sylvia may highlight a few others. One of the things that's very successful, and you do have that form, it is the student questionnaire. So our academic counselor that we have for the pilot program at OCC is a licensed marriage family therapist, but she's hired on as an academic counselor. For me, that is absolutely sweet, because I know that when we have dialogue, as far as her letting me know about her concerns, that she can speak that language of what she's identifying, and based on what she's experiencing when she's sitting down working on their ed plans, we then ask them, talk about the presence of the Veterans Program, and we have them see if they would be interested in filling out the questionnaire that highlights exactly where the problems are. I'm in their SARS grid, so I do have a schedule already built in. So whether it's the academic counselor, whether it's the VA certifying official, or if it's the vice president of student services, if they have someone that's not in a good place, they can book an appointment and they can come see me. Or if I'm on campus, I usually will get a call and say, hey, you got a moment, I got somebody, and we walk them over to me. And then it's that newborn handoff, as I like to say. It's I have them here and they're not in a good place, and so Ron will take it from there. And so I just kind of listen to see what's going on. So this has been very, very effective. Just since we became official, the MOU being signed in January, my numbers have more than doubled. And so the word is getting out, and I always tell them, when you see the sign on my door and the door is closed, that's a good sign. I engage and assess one-on-one conversations to kind of figure out what's going on and what we need to do right now to get them into a better place, and also getting a plan together. Whether it's getting connected to outside additional resources. One thing I thought was nice too is we had a mother call on behalf of her son who called the administration and asked if the school had a non-academic counseling service there, and it just so happened that yes, we did, and that was the drop zone. So believe it or not, and this was amazing, the veteran shows up the next day for his appointment, has no idea what's going on. Who does that? And I read him the email and explained that your mother had called and inquired, and he came. He actually came to the appointment, participated for the entire hour, and he enrolled. And actually, we're getting him connected to health services because he talked about the issues of being down, not sleeping well. So we've identified some things that we're going to do because he wants to get better, but he was very happy that he had a program and also a place where he can talk about some of the things he's struggling with, a veteran who can't find a job. So, and regular routine. So this is the blessing that this program provides. I hold hours on campus. We coordinate their appointment times around the time that they're on campus, so that I ask them what time it works best for them, and then we go ahead and do an enrollment. We talk about confidentiality since I'm a mandated reporter. We talk about the times when that doesn't when it comes into play where I might have to break confidentiality. We show them the form that in case I need to talk to someone, how that goes, what I can specifically talk about. But when we are in that room, it's just one-on-one, us and them, myself and that person talking. I've also done couples where I've had veterans that are trying to learn how to engage in their loved one in a way that invites them in to help them to understand what the things are going through. Because one thing I emphasize to them is, your loved one can see things you can't see. And if anyone knows you better, it is your other half. So how wonderful it is that you start to invite them in a way so that they can be of assistance to you, because a lot of times they feel helpless. And also it further destabilizes the stigma that I can't talk to them, they wouldn't understand. You know, you only know what you know. You only understand so much, so try to paint a picture. And we talk about that. We role play. This is how it may look like to see what works best for them. When I do the intake and the risk assessment, this is what I'm looking at here. And we have a form that highlights the various things so that I can see what is jumping out here that we need to address. And I ask them this too. If you want to come in, and I use the word foo-foo, if you want to come in and just kind of play on the surface, then that's all we're going to do. But if you truly want to get beyond the scope of foo-foo and really start to challenge yourself, then I let them know that this is county-driven, not VA-driven, so it stays within the county. After 1 year of them disenrolling, we destroy the records. But I tell them, I'll crawl with you, I will walk with you, I will run with you. Wherever you go, I'm right there, because I've seen some horrific things and I understand. I also understand, too, what comes in this room on any given day. And it just kind of, you can feel the air in the room just kind of, because it speaks that, okay. And if you think about it, where can you go? Where can these veterans go where they've got 55 minutes to an hour's time of having someone that can listen? There is no place. And I tell you right now, the VA, there's a problem with their concern there. If the stigma is they won't go there, the North and South County vet centers have stipulations. There's criteria. So outside of that, where can they go? So here you are having another place that I just had a spun up event on campus, and I need some place to come and talk. Come to the drop zone. Needs assessment. And I know Violet will highlight some of this, but now we want to take a look at what are the things that we need to get connected to. Service-connected disabilities is what I like to talk about. If you've gotten out and you do qualify, have you filed, because now the wear and tear, the things that you've done for serving your country, you owe it to yourself to go, not only for yourself, but if they have family, I like to highlight to them that, you know, that's additional monies that is you're taking off the table that could be provided for your family. So do yourself a service, get enrolled, because if the red light, the red warning light is coming on and you're disregarding it, just like the car, Then if you disregard it down the road and the problems get worse and then you didn't file, they're only going to address it right there at that time versus upgrading it because now the wear and tear is only getting worse. So get it early. This is the auspice of this program. Prevention and early intervention versus crisis mode and we're jumping off the seat of our pants. Another one's big too, shelter. We have programs for that. We have a program that provides food cards, gas cards, as well as for legal assistance and working on resume writing. And then we look at the various issues at hand, whether it's isolation. A lot of them, I get up, I go to school. When school's over, I go home. The next day, I get up, I go to school. When school's over, I go home. And there's nobody that they're interacting with. There's nobody that they're seeing. It's total isolation. So I see great things with the program because, especially with the group, it gives them an opportunity to see that they're not alone in some of the challenges that they face, but also gives them some cohorts to connect with outside of campus so that they stay healthy and they're more vibrant and alive in the classroom setting. And of course, transitional issues. How much of this is still carrying over of what they did in the military that's still very prominent and taking up a lot of space up here in their classroom time and in their day-to-day. The instruments that we utilize, and I put this up here because when I first came on board, these were the instruments that we were using, and you have those on your table. But we also started to look, and my question was, as a clinician, I don't treat. I'm not one that's there to do treating. I'm looking to identify what is going on so that I can then do what? Get them to the resources that they need, referral linkage. But it's not the be-all. We still want to talk about how certain behaviors have manifested in a way that's causing such problems that are getting in the way of their day-to-day. So what we did was we had a meeting on this Tuesday because the program is now taking teeth and the county is really seeing now some of the reward of the labor. And so we talked about outcome measures. How do we know that what we're doing is really working and that when we look at our tools, what do they mean? When I came on board a year and a half ago, it was just basically outreach and engagement. And you go to a school and they say, well, we have all these numbers and we're talking about a population where I got 4 pages of grade point average is less than 2 and people have dropped out, and I go, do we understand why? No. Well, if we're going to build something, we need to understand what's going on here and how do we target so that we are changing that outlook and providing better numbers than just saying that there's a population. I think, Rob, you talked about this, they just kind of fade off into the cloud and we don't know why. We want to understand that so to see, are we missing something? And that, again, is the part that's driven by this program. So the 2 things that we are going to definitely implement here starting in the new fiscal year, the new calendar year, is the WHO 5, which you have, and also we like the personal growth initiative scale because it really takes we're asking them to look at themselves and tell us how they see themselves and where those strengths are so that we can build off of that. Now what I do when I do initial, we do an initial, we'll do in 60 days or as needed, and then we also do a closeout. Every time that I have them do an instrument, I also tell them what these numbers are. I have them look at that, but we also highlight what they scored. But the thing that I love to do is I like to say, but now we connect it to what we talked about in this session. See over here, but remember we've been talking about these things so that they can see that more so the things that you've been bringing in the room, this is all, it's just letting me know that we're doing good work. And as we start hitting the next time that it is given to them, when they see those numbers changing to a positive, oh my goodness, they go, and they will all of a sudden start saying to themselves, to me, yeah, I know, because I'm doing this. Yeah, because now I don't have to worry about being evicted. Because now I'm communicating with my significant other. So the tools are just the tools, but we want to tie that into what their behavior is, what steps they're taking, and also, too, what can still be improved upon. And so last night, I won't tell you what time, I thought, and I kind of toyed, and I go, do I want to? And I go, let me just give you some numbers to kind of give you an idea. The 15, when I started last September, I had 3 off the bat. And we still weren't official because of the MOU, so we kind of did things without an official announcement. By December, I was at 6. So you can see that since December, I jumped to 15. One of the things that Sylvia Warden, who you'll meet here shortly, and I talked about is, what about having a mental health acuity? Because a number only tells me what? That I've got a population. But if, just like in nursing, that, well, why is this particular person over here have only 4 that they're taking care of, and this person here has got 8? Well, look at the acuities. And it says that of that 15, I've got 10 right now that have, based on my risk assessment, I've got 4s and 5s. So I'm quite busy. And in addition to that, as you can see, weekly attendance is definitely improved because we also have a process, and I think Christine highlighted it, where we call the day before, because, again, my thing was they're not showing up, but we not addressed the issue that maybe they got so much going on. I also have a challenge remembering things, that let's give them a little bit of an extra bump and support them and say, hey, look, just making sure that you know and remember about tomorrow's appointment, and give them an opportunity to go, you know what, thank you very much. And it really has made a difference, and they've been very appreciative of that phone call. So it hasn't been an invasion, more so than it's been kind of like this thing, because our numbers have been more solid since then. So that, again, echoed what Christine had mentioned earlier in her presentation. I kind of pulled up 2. This is the WellBeing, and these are 7 participants, and I just kind of highlighted what their pre-score was. Out of a possible 25, 25 means that, boy, the world is just sunny and bright, and you're just living off of the land. You can see that some of them are coming in, and they're quite low. But in the time frame, you see marked improvement. And again, I want to echo that if we were to really look at it, I think some of it has to do with the relationship. I think some of it has to do with addressing some of the issues and problems that they're dealing with. And being in a place where now, hey, look, you know, the world ain't so bad, it ain't so dark. And you see the differential scores. So they are hitting some very positive benchmarks. And the other one I wanted to highlight was the PCLM, which looks at post-traumatic stress disorder for the military. So the specific questions that asked are the things that are, and you have it there on your desk as well. The only correlation I saw was participants 1 and 2. If we look at their pre and post difference, and then you take a look at also 2, the negative is a good. That's a good, I put that rather than, so a differential of 20, they dropped 20 points. So they went from a 66, which is, if you look at the sheet there, 50 is a benchmark saying that there is definitely substantial presence of the things that the questions are asking, the characteristics of a post-traumatic stress disorder. So again, if we were to actually start to dig more in research to kind of find out what these really do mean, be more tangible, to say, are we doing the things that are hitting those benchmarks to help our veterans get to a better place? And then these are some of the things that we're looking at as far as outcome measures. The first 5 are just kind of things we tossed around. I don't know if GPA really makes a difference, because some people will do well, and when we talk about success, what does success look to them? We know that for those who are trying to be on pre-doctoral or whatnot, the competition's out is high. I need a 4.0. Most of these will be happy with a 2.1. So again, we have to look at what these numbers mean more so than just trying to speak in a way that says success. I want to be successful, but more so, I want to see more of the retention. And I think that Orange Coast, we've even have maybe be looking at from a semester to semester to see what is going on. So we can look at a variety of ways of addressing if we're on the mark. The 2 that are most important we just addressed here recently was engagement, referral, and linkage, and outreach and engagement. Getting them to a higher level of care so that they can address the issues that they're falling short on. versus, oh, look at my numbers and, oh, this is great. It's not what it's about. It will take care of itself. What's more important is, are we doing the kind of things that are allowing the veterans to come into the classroom and do the work that they've come to sign on for, and also to be more attentive and less disruptive to their professors and to the administration. And now, one of the programs that is very influential for us is the OC for Vet program, and this is a program that Maureen Robles had brought forth. And what this is a great system for me, because when I have veterans who are in need of assistance with housing, anyone that's 3 days away from being evicted, we can take care of that. All we need is their rental agreement and their notice of 3 days, and they will take care of making sure that that check is taken care of so they're not evicted. But again, you can see that no matter what the problem is, we also want to invite them in for conversation to understand what's going on that's getting them in that position, so we don't duplicate the process in 30 or 60 days. And if I could this time, if Violet would come up here so that you can kind of hear what her role is and how impactful and important having that vet peer here, because I'm one entity alone as a clinician, but to find out that this person right here as a peer veteran, I think we're going to drop the navigator and just say peer veteran, what it is that they're doing.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Violet Romero Corona, and I am a peer at OC for Vets, as well as with Ron at the Drop Zone. And all I do is the middle work. I keep my vets accountable for every step of the way. Like Ron said, we will walk with them, run with them, jog with them of their process. So even though I'm there with them, they are still held accountable for each step. I can't, just like in the military, I can't baby you to get your work done. I will not baby you now. I will have compassion and walk with you, direct you, but I will not do it for you. OC for Vets program, what it does, we're located inside the Veteran Service Office. So when veterans already coming in are ready to even put in a claim, the claim officers say, okay, you know what, there's this program that could work for you. We will then call them back and see where they're at, see if they're interested in even being a part of our program. And from there, like Ron said, there's all the other housing, food cards, gas cards, and then also being able to look at why they're in the situation that they're in. Basically what I do is what Ron said. I call the vets, I make sure they're doing okay. I link up with them from time to time and see if they need help, whatever they're doing. Today I will be going down to the VA and helping one of our vets enroll into the program. Not because he maybe can't do it on his own, but having that buddy or that peer just makes the trip a little bit easier. And it's just someone that can say, okay, I've been down this path. I remember how it was to even go to the VA the first time. So I can totally relate to his wanting to go but not ready to go. So he's ready now, so I want to be there for him. I interact with the vets on a daily basis of just calling them, just checking in on them, and then just having the vets see me on campus makes a difference, because I'm not that, oh, well, who's Violet? I don't know who this is. Once you make that connection to one-on-one and your face becomes familiar to them, it's easier for them to come to you and say, hey, I was wondering about this. Would you be able to help me? Or do you know any information about this? And if I don't know it, I will not lie to them. I will say, I don't know the whole story to it or how it works, but let's find out. So I'm not only teaching myself, I'm teaching that vet and whoever else he's going to share that knowledge with, he or she. So that's what I do, and I really enjoy what I do. And I'm very grateful for everyone here to take that extra step to be wanting to even help us. And it's very, very greatly appreciated, you guys. Thank you.
I love it. The other thing that's wonderful, too, is that she also brings out some of the female veterans that may be hiding or ashamed or just hiding in, away from what we're trying to do. And so she gives them that ability to take that one step in front of the other. And we have actually assisted 3 of our female veterans who were in crisis mode and living in their cars. One had a son, and so we were able to, within less than 2 weeks, get them into affordable housing. So our thing is, we just the same concept. We leave nobody behind, but we want to make sure that we open the door. Yes.
How big is your caseload, or what would you like it to be? How many do we see right now? How big is your caseload?
I don't have a caseload per se, but whoever Ron is in contact with, or whoever is under his case management, I follow as well. And then whoever I have through OC for Vets, I follow as well. And it's not a specific number, it's just ongoing.
Yeah.
And even if they're not even in the program anymore, I'll still check up on them occasionally. I enjoy what I do. So if I have to call 10, 20 people every day, I would do that. And it would be nice to have a few more people on staff, but I think that's also what makes it so genuine, that when I call you, it's not because I handed you off to someone else. It's, it's going to be me or Ron, or if we have someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So numbers-wise, caseload, I wish we didn't have a caseload, but I'm grateful for the vets that have come forward to get that help. So there's no specific number.
Yeah, and the other piece of that too, because again, I love to see Violet when she's humble. This is not the Violet, this is the go-getter. And all I got to do is that concept. All you got to do is just say it, and she knows it, and they know that she will hold them accountable. The other thing is, once they come to know in the vet center her name and her presence, we'll get emails saying, "Hey, I got a student veteran that's not in a good place. Can someone come?" And Violet is right there, and it's just a wonderful thing when you start becoming family and you're looked at as being more of an advocate and someone who cares. I kind of think about, it was earlier when Christine was doing her presentation, I couldn't help as a nurse remember the one slogan, the one motto that we kept saying as nurses is care with compassion. And I to this day, we're very caring, we're very compassionate about the work that we do. And just like we had a veteran peer from the Vietnam era that's with me earlier, Rick Rogers. Now I've got Violet, and it's just still, the song is just continuing to dance. In addition, these are the agencies that we have been very fortunate to work with. One of the things I love about OCC is as we vet the organizations that we do work with to make sure that they're appropriate for the veterans, so that they don't go there and they go, I went there and this is what I got. Because you only get one chance to make a first impression with a veteran, and then they go back into hiding, and then that reflects on us as to, so this is how you really see me and where my struggle is. So I love Patriots and Paws because it's an organization that provides furniture. All you gotta do is be a veteran, and you tell us what you need, and they get wonderful furniture from places like Anaheim Hills. I mean, very nice stuff. So if they get so as a veteran moves into their first apartment, or they're relocating and they're in need of things, all they do is give us a checklist of what they need. We go to the warehouse, and if we have it, the only requirement is that they gotta be able to have a means of getting it out of there, and it's theirs, no charge. None of the services that we have asked, Vet and Ally, are wonderful. We've had them come on to Orange Coast, and that is military cultural awareness, so that we can help the administration and the faculty come to understand the culture, so that they have a better understanding of what is going on when I see someone in the classroom. It also speaks that when you go through the program and you have that as a specific, I should have brought that, a specific little thing you put in your window, it says that I'm vet friendly, you can come and talk to me, and you can talk to me in confidence. So we thought, again, rather than it just being just veterans, we want the whole entire campus so that they feel that it's a family versus, it's us versus the world. The MIRAC, we'll highlight that. I know that Saddleback knows that because they have them right now. And the Mental Illness Research, Education, and Clinical Centers. I thought this was a great idea because of the stigma the VA has. It's like, how about we find some departments that we can invite out to the campus and give us some education, some access to some good knowledge. So back in November, I think October, November, they came out for a month-long series, and these were the classes that, the presentations that they provided to our behavioral health. So the program looks at, in talking with the administration, what does the campus need, so that the things that we bring to the campus is applicable to your skill set. I don't think that we need to be giving behavioral health, talking about these things to someone who is maybe teaching a class, unless they're just curious and want that information and knowledge. But we want to make sure that it's housing and it speaks to those who really are going to be a benefit to that. One of the things also, too, that we were talking about with this organization is they do vignettes. So we're thinking about eventually having to come out to the administration and the faculty to provide vignettes of, okay, here's a situation, you got a student, this is the behavior, how would you address that? So we give more education and understanding of how best to deal with certain behaviors and characteristics and the characteristics of those behaviors. This is what the program used to look like when I first came on board. When I came on in September of 2012, it was let's build a curriculum on Santa Ana and have the students come. And I go, well, if it's deficit-based, if it's about depression and anger, they're going to look at that saying that I don't have a problem, they're not going to come. So I thought with myself and Rick, we started going around, and what we did was we show a film. We were fortunate that we've had some veterans. Violet has been one of them that has been part of the event where we show a film. One that we did for the Women's Lioness. After the film, then we have 2 or 3 veteran females that get up and they talk about their experience. It's unscripted. I give them a list of things to think about from a narrative perspective. I let them craft their own because I don't want to have any influence. I vet them to make sure these are the things that probably aren't good to talk about, because if we bring up maybe say MST, now we have to address that. So we want to make sure it's appropriate to the audience, but we want to give them, the audience being students, student veterans, administration, faculty, and outside agencies, a picture of what these men and women are walking with each and every day, so that you can get some insight as to, am I ready? Can I assist a veteran if they come to me? Or if not, what would I do? And so the 2X means that we've had 2 events at those particular locations. And let me tell you, the evaluations all we got were, wow, had no idea. Which told me that there's something, but wait a second, this conflict's been going on for over 12 years, and you didn't know these things. What's going on here? And that's how, this kind of was what drove me to say we need a program on campus. Who am I? There's many ways I wanted to do this. I was thinking about doing a vignette, but because of time, I thought, well, let me just kind of give you a little idea of what kinds of things I'm hearing when they come to see me. When I put up there, who am I, they're literally asking, who am I? Because the language I hear is, I have an idea of who I was before I joined. I have an idea of who I was before I went over into the war. And now they go, I'm trying to make sense of who I am now. They asked the question, and I thought this was powerful. I had one particular person say, people ask me to ask for help, but if you come from a background where I was maybe the sibling that had to play the adult role, and I had to provide for my sisters and brothers, and I had to comb the streets, and now I'm out in the military and having to carry out these actions, I come back and he asks me, he goes, what does help look like? And I just sat there and I never heard that. And I thought to myself, do we have any idea the things that these men and women walk with every single day, that's sitting in your classroom, that's sitting across from me when they're coming to ask for help? Do we even have an idea? Or how about one that says, if I was to go down there and take medication, is this going to be what I'm going to be for the rest of my life? There's one that believe that because of the way they grew up, that this is the way they're always going to be. We have talks, I've got now veterans talking about lives that they've had to take. And very graphic at this, and they can tell you the number of lives they've had to take. I've had one that his struggle was the things I had to do 10 years ago. Life wasn't an issue for me then. He goes, but now that I'm back here and I have my own 2-year-old, now I have to look back at what I did over there. And so I say to myself, do we even have an idea or place where they can have these kind of conversations? And who can listen and carry out a conversation? How do you respond to that? That now he's looking, and now we have the guise of guilt and shame coming in the room, and we talk about those characteristics and how it speaks to people in a way that is it having them doing things that normally they wouldn't do. And how do you give yourself a little bit of breathing room from that, knowing that I have this gift of being able to enjoy my child were somewhere in another part of the world, I may have taken it away from someone. The other thing I also hear too is the challenge of validating who they are. Did I do good? If I was on that front line, if I had to carry out my mission, and then I come back here and I see all this chaos, and I see all these certain behaviors, and they go, is this what I fought for? And they're trying to get people to say it's okay. They want to be validated for their service, but not in the way we think it is. Or if I'm sitting there talking, and all of a sudden I start talking like this to you, it's because, why is it so hard for you to understand what I'm trying to say? Why is it so difficult that I'm speaking English? Don't you understand English? But it's not that. It's just that I've just spent enough energy trying to explain my situation. You're not getting it. So now I need to escalate my voice. And now and we talk about that. I go, guess what? I'm not hearing your message anymore. What I'm hearing now is you feel very aggressive now. So we invited something else into the room that now brings a whole different dynamic to the engagement. Things that we work on. But this is one that really, I thought, took me places. Ribbons are a very big thing in the military. Ribbons speak a lot to, you can look at a ribbon, and that's where VetNet Ally is very powerful, is it tells you about culture. You can look at a uniform, and you can already deduce who that person is and what they do and where their position are in the rank structure of things just by looking. The ribbons also speak. So non-combat, in a non-war situation, you're trying to get as much as you can because it's also good for promotion. But this gentleman spoke about something that I thought was quite intense, and I thought, wow, this is, I never thought of that. There's a thing that if you are an infantry person and you're in a combat zone, you earn a combat infantry badge, and it looks like this. There's no question that anyone that served, when they see that, they know what that represents. Now, if this was non-war time and they saw that, they would say, this person really has done some stuff. But to this veteran, it spoke differently. It says that, I'm fortunate to be here. I've had to do some things and I'm fortunate to be here. But it gets more interesting when you go, that's campaign 1, but now I've been in a situation twice. But he didn't stop there. There was a third. He can't look at his ribbons. He doesn't want to put his uniform on because he's back to the, who am I? And I thought to myself, wow. I just sat there and I go, I'm glad the program is here. I really am, because it really did. And he is actually one of the ones that regularly come. He regularly comes, he's engaged, he's working hard, he's got his wife involved. Because the other piece too, for those who don't understand this, and this is interesting, there's usually a 3-year fog, we call it, from the time that they get out through that transition where they're just not making sense out of anything. Everything is too chaotic. Once they get beyond that 3-year mark, then things start getting a little bit clearer where they are able to engage. And I hear conversations like, wow, I have no idea what it was like when I first got back. I wish that if I had to do it all over again, maybe school was not the idea right off the bat, because I think I've squandered my time because I thought I had it. I've got this, and then they go, I don't know what I've got. So just know that there are those out there who are definitely walking with some heavy stuff, and I think that having a place where they can talk and having someone that can receive that kind of discussion really does speak to the benefits of the program. But it doesn't stop here. Now I want to get him, and now we do have him connected to the VA. He is now, I'm a firm believer that for those who really are not in a good place, we talk about medication. We talk about the significance of medication hand in hand with also coming and talking about things, developing skills. Because again, I can drink and the problem shifts itself, but once my alcohol level, and once the alcohol starts to subside, all it does is it allows the problem to reposition itself and it's right back. We haven't done anything to navigate and address this problem. Medication, as I speak to it, and we talk about chemical imbalance, we talk about the various things, we talk about the highs, we talk about the lows, and we want something that's going to help them to get engaged, give them a little bit of lift, or bring them down so that people can hear them and they can engage in conversation a lot better. It's not the be-all, just Medicaid. I really do believe that you still need to come and talk about what these problems are that's getting in the way. My closing thoughts. And again, I've seen this. It's amazing when going throughout Orange County how compartmentalized we are. The left hand is doing extremely well. The right hand is doing okay, but has no idea what the left hand is doing. And so I'm thinking, do you know what's going on over here? And maybe you can kind of talk amongst one another and make it more harmonious. And it goes hand in hand with the network of care for the veterans. If you got something that's going on in a school or an organization that's working well, why aren't we sharing that amongst? Because the whole entire thing is we're providing a service to a very unique population. And if we've got something that's a win-win, why don't we all be winners? Because the population that we're serving, they want to win too. I think the Veteran Service Coordinator would be great at a district level to oversee something like this, or at least be able to be that conduit. I think it's kind of like the Region 8 has, you all come together and you take it back. It needs to be someplace where it's being housed rather than this same old song. And I see the same people at every single event, forum, and it's like, okay, but when are we going to do? I'm a doer. I love ideas, but if I'm not taking those ideas, just like I asked the veterans, we can sit here and talk all kinds of ideas and thoughts, but when you walk outside of this room, are you going to do? Otherwise, nothing moves. The action is still going to equal the same consequence or result, and you're going to get the same effect. And until you are ready to stand up and say, I no longer want that effect, then we need to change the equation. The formula needs to be changed. Oh, of course, we all know that one well. Avoid duplication of effort. If you got something that's working for you, man, is there some way that I could be a part of that? Make my world rounder. When I was listening to Christine, I was giggly back there because I could not believe what I was hearing. It's like, there it is. Now imagine if we start to take the thing, because I got access to things that, as a clinician, you want the best possible understanding of best practice. And if I'm in a place where I can provide and get that kind of information, now our specialists are back there that put these numbers together and tell us what it means and then come back with suggestions means that I'm going to be even that much better as a clinician. But we're still falling greatly short on that. The numbers are saying there's about 500,000 veterans who are going to be coming out of the military this year. Tsunami, and if you remember the first bullet that talked about California leading the way, they love coming out here. They love the weather, the quality of life, and they're thinking, hey, I can be a surfer dude, or I can come out here and do the Hollywood thing, but guess what? The reality doesn't sink in until they're here and they go, this is not what I thought, and I hear that all the time. This is not what I thought it was going to be. And if you know how tough it is for us, only imagine what it's going to be like for our veterans. So if you see your numbers already increasing on your campuses, it's only going to get that much more exciting. And I do say exciting. And coordinate the availability of community colleges fill in those gaps. We got so many gaps that we need to fill, and I think that, again, this program is a part of, not a be-all, of a bigger picture. And Rob was talking about it. Christine's been talking about it. I mean, look at, now to be a veteran, you see that. You highlighted on this little chopping block here. You knew. Because if not, this is what we're looking like. We already have this problem, and the numbers are only going to get worse. And I'm sorry, I don't like homelessness anyway. It bothers me, vet or otherwise, to see someone, however they got there, not being able to provide. And that's a concern. Suicide is always a concern. If your answer is checking out, then please talk to me. Please talk to me. I don't care. It's not acceptable. And of course, now we already know the strain, and we know when there's cutbacks, what are the two departments that gets hit? Education and social services. So if they're just barely skidding the surface and they're just doing enough to stay off the street, as the economy is affected, we're going to push more out on the street. So, and in conclusion, I'm hoping that I was able to present it in a way for you to have a better understanding of the program, understanding, and I'm sure you already know what those roadblocks are, and gaining an understanding of what some of these men and women are talking about in their respect when they're coming in and talking to somebody. Just sit there and say, how do I make sense of some of these ways some of this stuff is talking to me and has me doing things that maybe I don't necessarily find myself wanting to do. Questions? Yes.
An apology, my colleagues already know I talk too much to the rest of the Ms. Reader Foggy mentioned, is that before they start succeeding, or is it a transitional thing, or what? Talk a little bit more about it. You said
it's something that we've just kind of giving it a name, and it's something that they call it. It's like they're in this fog, and they describe that they just nothing is connecting. They aren't able to really make sense out of the information that's coming in. A lot of chaos and drama. Some of it is still what they're carrying from the transition, because, again, one of the biggest things is structure.
I got the fog part of it.
Okay.
I'm wondering
well, it seems to be just in the people that I have been talking to, and it's been resonating that we hit around year 3. This is not everyone, but for the ones that really have been in a really rough spot, they talk about when they start talking about that transitional journey. They start doing the math of that timeline, and you start to see that year 3. Year 3 seems to be a very magical, but it can be anywhere from 3 to 5 before they're in a better place to be able to receive the things that are being asked of them, where they'll start seeking, where otherwise the characteristics of what they're dealing with is speaking so that isolation is the best thing right now, because I'm trying to figure it out and I don't know who to trust. I don't know what is going on and how much of this is still the remnants of coming out of maybe a very unhealthy environment to begin with. I wish that we could do some more. It's definitely a research project in hand, but you hear this talk all the time. And then what happens is, as I'm talking to 1 or 2 veterans, then you hear others say, yeah, that's me. And I sit there and go, okay, so we understand that there's a fog, and we do have an understanding of a generalized period where, and they will even say too, and this is why I think the group is going to be powerful, they tell me, those who've gotten to a better place, I can see them now because I was there. They will tell you, I can see those just by looking at them and the way they're behaving, that they just got out. They even know it. So I'm thinking, wow, so what do you think about a group where the people who are further along can help those because they've already been there and they understand or have an understanding of what they're going through? And I'm sitting there going, wow, this is, the more you're talking, the better it is for me to be able to understand, and hopefully I can then get other colleagues, peers, and behavioral health folks so that we can pull this information and say, if we get them to talk, doesn't help us steer the direction of the ship? Because it is limiting. We are on the mark on a lot of things, but man, oh goodness, if there's a difference between if you give me, oh, look at that, now I'm shifting because you told me something that I kind of thought was there, but now I'm getting the information, I'm gathering the kind of data that sits there and go, I have a more pinpoint way now of delivering care. So I think that I'm just very fortunate that I'm in a position to be able to hear these kind of things, because for me, I think then it says, why don't we have more of this so that we can have the opportunity to help the population that's out there? Because it's still, the compartmentalization it's been 12 years. We've gotten better, but I even know when I was in the military, that tsunami, my goodness, they tried so many different things. I mean, tiger teams, and we'd have teams where they'd have a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a nurse practitioner, a clin psych, a couple of psych techs. I mean, we used to have all kinds of gamuts, but the thing is, okay, you have all these assets, but what are we doing? How do we know that we're hitting the mark? I think Christine said it best. I mean, I loved her PowerPoint because, again, it speaks to the very thing. It's like, you want that validation, and we hear us talk about it, but now, of course, EBI, no, EVI, yeah, evidence, no, EBI, yeah, evidence-based does speak, and we get that.